So you watched or you listened to that last section a few more times, you got excited about big ideas, and now it's time to come up with your own, if you don't already have one. Now in this section, we're going to start by talking quite a bit about my market and the things that I've experienced in it. That's the best place that I have to reference for context. So hopefully that will provide a good foundation for us. And speaking of which, it does start with the market. We're going to be talking about this again, but you have to ask yourself, what unserved need is there? Where is there a gap? Where are there promises that are not being made? Where are there problems that are not being solved? So, when we looked at our market, two of our big winners, Girlfriend and Lust, were solving problems that people weren't already solving in the market with their products. Girlfriend, how to get a girlfriend. Everything out there was a get laid product. And then Lust was, a relationship product, how to get your woman to treat you like a Roman emperor. Everything that was being sold was for single guys. And so we came in, we said, hey, let's make something for frustrated married men and guys in relationships. And so those were problems and frustrations that existed in our market which were not previously solved. Another one, a great one, is Language of Lust. That one, as I mentioned, my friend Chris Haddad rolled out, and that was to women. It was, how to use, how to talk dirty to your man to get him addicted to you. There were a lot of relationship products about how to get a boyfriend or how to make a man, love you, but nothing about how to, get a man obsessed with you by tuning into things that he wanted and, deep within his male brain. So those were some great, some great unserved needs that were in the market. And so we start there. It starts with the market. What is the unserved need? Where is there a gap? And then we also have to come up with a compelling, incredible promise. So if we look at some of those other big ideas, Amazon Prime, Uber, all of these have huge promises that, are very exciting and incredibly compelling. So we start with the market, we find the gap, we move on to add an incredible promise that could be filled in that market. And then a great big idea provides a unique, unorthodox, but compelling approach to solve the problem. So I'll repeat that. It provides a unique, unorthodox, but compelling approach to solve the problem. So what's Thrive Market's compelling approach to solve the expense of organic foods? It's, hey, just pay a one-time subscription fee, and then you can get everything for 25 to 50% off. The subscription fee will just disappear through the course of the year with all the money that you've saved. And that subscription fee, as it turns out, is a critical part of their revenue stream because the margins on their products are not nearly as high, and that's how they're able to save customers money. Let's see, Uber. Unique, compelling, unorthodox solution. Open up a cell phone app, hit a button, and grab a car. That's incredibly compelling. And how are you going to come up with these if it's not tech? Well, here's a couple of things from our market. You can use, if you're selling information products, your unique, unorthodox, compelling approach could be a cultural reference. So, but what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at Girlfriend, our cultural reference, the thing that we solved the problem with, is that I read dozens and hundreds of literotica novels to understand what makes women fall in love. In Language of Lust, it was that the narrator of that sales letter was a woman, and she watched a whole bunch of pornography to understand why women talk a certain way and how that turns men on. We're getting into the mechanism here, and which will be something that we cover in just a bit. You could combine concepts that make sense together. So that was part one. Use cultural references, things that are already out there, and critically, things that people can relate to and say, oh yeah, I could see why, I could see that being important. Just before we move on to this point, it's really important that we get this. Literotica is something we could point to and we can say, oh yeah, a lot of women read this. Pornography is something you can point to and say, wow, a lot of men watch that. So the cultural reference is not something that is obscure. It's a massive cultural reference that every man has heard of 50 Shades of Grey and knows that women read it. Every woman knows that men watch porn. So the cultural references are very big ones. We're essentially combining those concepts to present the big idea. Speaking of which, combining concepts that make sense together. So Lust, the mechanism is get your woman to treat you like a king by using operant conditioning and conditioning her to get addicted to you. So operant conditioning is a concept that's out there already, and it just makes sense to say, hey, listen, you're already getting conditioned in a relationship. We're just going to give you the tools to do it in the right way. So that is combining concepts that make sense together. You could present new but plausible information. So, Venus Factor is an offer that my friend Brad runs. It's is a massive female weight loss offer. And the new compelling information they came up with is that leptin is your master hormone for weight loss. And if you do not regulate your leptin correctly, then you will not lose weight. And if you do, then you'll lose weight like that. So the Venus Factor is, I think it's a combination of workout diet plan that, endeavors to moderate leptin so that you can very quickly lose weight. So that's new information. Nobody was talking about hormones before or hormone modulation, but they were the first, I believe, to market with that. Pandora's Box was another, offer in our market that did the same thing. The idea was that there's 6 different types of women. This Harvard psychologist discovered 6 different types of women, and there's 6 different ways to seduce them, and you just have to, ask 3 simple questions to find out which type of woman she is, and then, follow her seduction blueprint. And that one was huge for a long time. So the idea is that there's new information that you're pulling from, some history book, or not a history, sorry, from like a, trade journal or a science publication or something like that. And you've taken this new information and now you've applied it to this problem, and you've got a solution. You've got a big idea. And this is really, this is technology here. Is just using technology to solve a problem. And in the case of info marketing, we're saying, hey, there's new technology for how people interact with each other, how people lose weight, etc. Another unique or unorthodox approach is just presenting real and competitive advantages as what it is that you do. So the Motley Fool Stock Advisor, if you look at their copy, it's it just says, hey, the people on our team have a history of predicting winning stocks. We predicted this one, we predicted this one, we predicted this one. So it's as much as can be expressed through copy, it's a real advantage over all the other amateur stock pickers who don't pick good stocks. And usually a big idea, so let's just go through those one more time. You can use cultural references, something that people know exists in the media or in culture, and you can say, hey, I've taken this concept and I've applied it to solving this problem. That's part 1. That's option 1. Option 2 is you could combine concepts that make sense together. So lust, we're talking about using operant conditioning. It's something that we already all do, and we're applying it to this one problem that we need to solve. Present new but plausible information. So we're going out into the world, we're saying, hey, there's this new technology, new research, new discovery, and this new discovery is going to deliver this outcome for you. And then 4 is present real and competitive advantages, which is, hey, I have a history, I have a track record, I have a social media following that agrees with all this stuff. So anything that you can show that demonstrates that you actually know what you're talking about, that alone could be part of the big idea. So it's usually a combination of a couple of these things. So it's definitely going to be a combination of the promise/outcome and one of these other things. So the promise, let's remember, is, let's just go through some of the promises from the big ideas on this page. So the promise for a GPS is arrive at your destination without getting lost. The big idea is turn-by-turn directions with a device that fits in the palm of your hand. The promise of Uber is very inexpensively, get to your destination without having to rent a driver. Or without having to drive yourself. The big idea is get a car with your cell phone. Girlfriend, the promise is get a girlfriend 6 weeks or less. We've discovered this one, discussed this one ad nauseum. iPhone, the promise is probably just have the internet in your pocket, and that's kind of what the big idea is. So we could continue to go through these, but I think you're getting the point. The promise/outcome is always going to be that thing we discussed earlier, is what is the primary benefit that somebody gets from experiencing what you have. And then the big idea is going to be what is that primary benefit mixed with one of these things, these cultural references or new and plausible information that's going to deliver that promise. People have been promising weight loss for years, but Venus Factor was the first one to come along and say you can lose weight by moderating your master hormone leptin. People have been promising dating advice for years. I was the first one that came along and said, I can get you a girlfriend in 6 weeks or less using secrets I discovered in Literotica. So that's usually how the big idea works. So that's kind of the how you come up with a big idea, but how do you actually do it? How do you, sitting there right now, come up with a big idea? This is a very unscientific process. If we had a perfect formula for it, then everybody would be ultra billionaires and we would all be living in a Wall-E style universe where we were just cruising around on chairs and being fed by robots. But we don't have that, but this is the closest we can get to it. And I've used this process again and again. This is the exact formula that I've used to come up with all of our big ideas. And, it's not... Again, it's not necessarily step by step. I guess it's as close as you can get to it, though. Sometimes I'll change up the steps. Sometimes I'll get farther into it, and then I'll step back, and I'll go through the steps again. But this is as close as you can get to a step by step, and it's got some fun aspects to it. So step one is you throw yourself into your product to understand it. So if it's an info product, you watch it again and again. What are the big ideas that are jumping out to you? What do people actually get from this? What are the things that they're going to experience as a result of it? And if you were struggling to get it into one big idea before, what could you extract and what could you refocus into a big idea? So can you take a piece out of it and re-record it? Could you re-engineer something about it? Could you tweak something about it? Could you add more stuff to it so that it's really focused on that big idea? Now, if you're launching with a digital or with a non-digital good, with something physical that requires some time, then I hope that you're doing this before you get into any of the marketing. And if not, then I hope you're doing it on version 2 of your product. Again, to start, if you've already created a product, if you're already a product owner, then throw yourself into your product and just really understand the shit out of it and ask yourself, what are the big promises? What are the big outcomes I can deliver? And what are the ideas I'm trying to present in this? And is there a sort of a golden thread that runs through these ideas that I can use to, that I can use as the master idea? So that's step one. Step two, or arguably step one, if you are just starting out, is you throw yourself into your market to understand it. So what does your market secretly want? What does it believe, and what does it wish it understood? So, in the case of, and I remember the name of that skateboard company, Boosted Boards, there was clearly a market for people who wanted to skateboard on an electric skateboard that was well made and had, the ability to climb hills and not break. So throwing yourself into your market and just trying to understand, where is this gap? What do people want? Or in our case with Girlfriend and Lust, we're in the market so much, and we hear from customers, we hear, this is my frustration, that's my frustration. The more that you are able to actually connect with people in your market and hear their frustrations, the better off you're likely to be in terms of coming up with that one big idea. So that's step two. Step three, and this could be applied whether it's an information product or a physical product, is I have here, you read a ton of shit. What exists at the intersection of your prospect and your market? What science, what technology, what pop culture exists around it? So, when I came up with Girlfriend, I was reading a tremendous amount of literature around what causes women to fall in love. What do women desire? Why do some women commit and why do others not? So this gave me some aha moments that made their way into the big idea, which we'll be getting to in a bit. But you just got to read a lot. If you're, if we want to take Boosted Boards as an example, this is again the skateboarding company with the lithium battery pack. No doubt the founders just completely understood the hell out of their market. They tried to figure out, what size board is appropriate for commuting. How heavy does that board have to be? Who makes the best boards? And I believe they don't actually make their own boards. They contract out to a company that does make skateboards. And they had to read a lot about engineering and, power drive systems. How do you move power from a battery pack to a skateboard's wheels? So really understanding, again, what exists at the intersection of the problem that you're trying to solve for your prospect and the market itself, whether it's tech, whether it's pop culture, and then trying to put these concepts together into something that just instantly sticks. Then you get to channeling the spirit. So And sometimes it's a then, sometimes it's a during. Channeling the Spirit's a phrase that I use to discuss opening your mind up to unconscious thought processes. And like any great inventor has their own ways of doing this, and you will no doubt have your own. And for me, channeling the Spirit can come in a number of forms. It can come in the form of simply being in the shower, but that's definitely not predictable. Sometimes ideas pop in my head, but not always. It can come in the form of surfing, getting out in the ocean, or going for a run, and then on the way back, I'm just kind of chilling. My brain is a little bit clearer. There are other forms of channeling the Spirit. So I find that sometimes when I write copy, there's nothing quite like a little bit of bourbon, a cigarette, and just the smallest hit of a little bit of marijuana. And those three things somehow come together to just create sparks in my brain. Not always, but oftentimes those three things together just really start getting my neurons firing, and I will just start creating copy that I'm blown away by. Not always, and not under every circumstance, and I can't do that if I've done it a lot. I find that if I've been drinking too much that weekend because I've been out with friends, or smoking too much because I've been hanging out in California, then it loses its effectiveness. But every now and then something, a chemical alteration of the brain, can really open your mind up to new thoughts. And I'm not encouraging you to do that, I'm just telling you what works for me. And I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you my friend Ian's ritual, which is that he puts on, and I've since stolen a part of this, but he puts a whole bunch of Hans Zimmer music on. So Hans Zimmer, if you're not familiar with him, he's a movie composer, and he's done soundtracks for films like Batman and Superman, Crimson Tide, and his music is pretty epic. So my friend Ian will put on a Hans Zimmer track, or just a playlist, and then he'll close his mind and his eyes, and he will visualize himself getting prepared for battle and breaking out of a dojo where he's being attacked, and then he runs up a hill and he's fending off defenders, he's slicing and dicing. He gets to the boss battle, he defeats the boss, and he opens up a chest that's waiting for him. He opens up an envelope that is in the chest, and on that envelope are the words that he needs to write, and he opens his eyes and he starts writing. That's my buddy Ian Stanley. He runs a course called 80/20 Email Copy. I hope I'm not doing him a disservice by sharing this information, but if anything, you should definitely be learning from Ian, because he is a consummate studier of copy, and he's got great stuff. So channeling the Spirit, it's going to be this thing that you come up with on your own, but whatever gets you into that creative state where you're receptive to unconscious thoughts and just a little bit out of your head, or even a little bit further into your head than you normally would get, I find a critical part of the creative process, and one that nobody really talks about, but damn, it's so important for me. And whenever I do talk with people about it, they're like, yeah, I do that exact same thing. To close off on that, when I was coming up with the idea for Girlfriend, my buddy Fran was working for me for a while. I must have smoked, I want to say, 6 or 7 clove cigarettes that day, which are just awful for you. And I'm not a big smoker. So I must have smoked 6 or 7 clove cigarettes that day, and just recycling and talking through ideas. And finally, that one just hit, and we had it. So along those lines, after or before or during channeling the Spirit, you brainstorm with your teammates. So if you have people on a team, if you have a mastermind to work with, brainstorm with them, and just set an hour aside to talk things through. You don't need to have any particular agenda other than, hey, let's bring all of our ideas to this and just bullshit and see what we come up with, and figure out how we're going to present this idea in a really compelling way. How can we get this down into one sentence? You won't always get it. You won't always get it on that day, but sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You walk away from the session, you come back and you do it again. Once you do have an idea that you think is pretty good, and I'm not going to say that you're going to get it down to one sentence at this point. I would just say, you've got an idea that's pretty good, you're circling around it, and you can start to describe it. Now you've got to start beating the shit out of it. So this is the next step. So by beating the shit out of it, you say, why wouldn't this work? What could go wrong? What objections do I have to this idea? So if you were Uber, it's why wouldn't this work? Well, how are we going to get drivers to start using our app? Well, we could pay them. If it's girlfriend, for us, we just came up with all the objections that this would not work for somebody. So you really try to beat the shit out of idea with objections that other people are going to have, and just get through it until you can easily say, hey, like we can handle this, and this is the idea, and it's no problem. So that's the next step, and then the step after that is, for me, I write, or in your case, maybe you write. So you write copy, you write the idea out, you write paragraphs about it, and in the course of writing, you might find that the idea evolves. Now, if this is a business plan, you might have to evolve it in there. If it's a piece of copy, then you might have to evolve it in there. You just write and you write and you write, and you see what comes out of you. So usually I don't have a big idea. For example, with Ignition, as I'm working on this right now, I have what I told you, which is the step-by-step system to becoming a natural, but I'm not positive that that's going to be the final result, because I'm continuing to work through the copy, and as I write through it, I find new things, and I find new ways to update it and change the idea so that it becomes perhaps a bit more relevant for the market. As you're writing, you will no doubt face the resistance. So if you've never read a book by Steven Pressfield, I highly encourage you to do so. He wrote The War of Art and many others, and he has a concept called the resistance, which is that little voice in your head that tells you to go check Facebook, or to go spend your time doing something else, or that it's not going to work, or that people aren't going to like this. I won't dwell on it too much, but I found as a writer that the resistance is a very real thing and can creep in the form of procrastination and self-doubt. And you just have to face it, and you have to push through. So those are the next two steps. You face the resistance, and you push through the resistance, and you keep writing, and you keep putting ideas out there until you have this thing that is a beautiful, big idea. And then you do it 6 to 10 more times, and you will have a home run on your hands. So we hope that's the general hit rate is 1 in 10 ideas. Maybe if you're really good, 1 in 6 is going to just really hit. Everybody's going to love it, and that's your big idea. So let's run through this again. If you already have a product, you throw yourself into your product to understand it, and just try to pull out that golden thread, or pull out that one concept that you think everybody's going to love. You throw yourself into your market to understand it. What does it secretly want? What does it believe about the things that you are trying to do and the problems you are trying to solve? And what does it wish that it understood? How can you explain something, or teach something, or deliver something that your market wishes it had? You read a ton of shit. So you read, whatever you need to bolster your claims, to enhance your idea, to deliver your idea, or to build the tech around your idea so that it can deliver it as efficiently as possible. You channel the spirit. We know what that one is all about. You brainstorm with your teammates, sometimes while channeling the spirit. You beat the shit out of the idea with your teammates and with yourself. You write, you face the resistance, you push through, and then you do it again. And this is a beautiful, beautiful cycle. It is so much fun. So how do you know that you have a big idea? What really marks it when you're like, I've got it? You can explain it in a sentence or two. So again, to go back to girlfriend, and I misspoke a little bit earlier. I mean, it's the step-by-step system to get a girlfriend in 6 weeks or less using secrets I discovered in reading romance novels. Anybody can get that. Step-by-step system to get a girlfriend in 6 weeks or less using secrets that I discovered in romance novels. All right, I got it right away. iPhone, internet in your pocket, right? Big idea. I get it right away. Wait, it's a real internet in my, yep, it's a real internet in your pocket. Uber. You can hail a cell phone, or hail a car with your cell phone. Okay, I get it. Right away, sentence or two. And critically, here's what's really important. Other people get it right away. It takes no time for them to understand it. You don't have to go into deep technical explanations. You don't have to, really spend paragraphs telling people why it is why what you're doing is important, or how it affects people, or how it could affect them. They just get it right away. They're like, oh yeah, okay, I understand. An electric skateboard that can go up hills and commute 10 miles to work. I get that right away. That doesn't exist. I might want one. So that's that. And along those lines, not only do they get it, it sticks in people's minds. So if you're a guy who wants a girlfriend, and I tell you, I can get you a girlfriend 6 weeks or less, and just using secrets that I discovered reading romance novels, it's probably going to stick in your mind. You're gonna, I want that. Uber sticks in your mind. Amazon Prime sticks in your mind. Anything delivered to your house in 2 days for free. These things stick in people's minds. So those are the, and then the fourth test is people have strong reactions to it. They say, wow, I really want that, or oh my God, if that got out in the world, that would be awful, whatever it is. But people, if they have strong reactions to it, or they get really excited about it, that's a great sign that you're onto an awesome big idea. So just those four, again, like those are sort of the other person litmus tests. You can explain it in a sense or two. Other people get it. It sticks in their minds, and they have strong reactions to it. So as you're telling your friends, your coworkers, hey, this is my idea, the best response you can get is, wow, you're so fucking dumb for doing that. There's not a chance you can make that happen, because it's such a big idea that like they doubt that you're going to be able to execute on it. That's when you know you've got a really good big idea, is when other people doubt your ability to make it happen. So that is the response to other people. Now, how about how you feel and what went into it for you? It's a big idea. It's really big. It's more than a PDF or a report or just a journal article. It's something that you feel comfortable and excited telling people about. I mean, frankly, I feel very excited to tell people, hey, I can get you a girlfriend. You just follow my system and I can get you that. So it's a big thing. It's life-changing, and you feel that way about it. Along those lines, you're really, really excited about it. It's something that you want to share with people and you want to tell the world about. It's something that you'd be willing to put your name on. And, not to get too deep here, but the etymology of the word passion, the Latin for that is to suffer. And I think most people don't know this, but when people think of passion, they think of what is lustful relationships where people are all over each other, and steamy sex scenes with candles and dripping oils and whatnot. At least that's what comes to my mind initially. Maybe that's because I grew up in the 80s with too much HBO softcore. But in any case, that is not passion. Passion is suffering. Passion is Romeo and Juliet's love. So, you want to put your name on this. You want to be passionate about it. You want to fight your ass off to get this out in the world and share it with people. And, you are willing to suffer for it. I have suffered greatly for a girlfriend in the form of comments, in the form of people calling me an asshole, misogynist, scammer, what have you. And I continue to suffer for it because I know that it is helping men become better men, helping women have better boyfriends, so on. So if you're not that excited about it, if you're not like, I will fucking suffer for this idea, then it's not a good big idea. And finally, you worked your ass off to arrive at it. Very few big ideas just pop out of one's head unannounced. So, along those lines, there's a Steve Jobs quote. I believe it's Steve Jobs that I wrote down here, and I'll leave us with this, with the big idea. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple, but it's worth it in the end, because if you can get there, you can move mountains.